You're listening to Biz-Souls, the business podcast with an edge, hosted by me, Rona Lewis, and Jeffrey Hansler. Tune in for perspectives and discoveries about the changing world of business. It's time to connect to the heart, soul, and humor of how business gets done.
It's always better the second time around.
That's right. We're improving. Hi, kids, and welcome to Biz-Souls. I'm Rona Lewis.
I'm Jeffrey Hansler, and we get to the heart and soul of business and the people that make it happen. And what didn't happen is we just did this interview with Kevin.
And it screwed up. Dude, it's like Mercury retrograde, and I totally screwed it up.
Our
it's on me.
Our technical crew
I didn't press the button.
Yeah,
I forgot to press the button. All right. So we have an awesome guest today, Kevin Hubschmann. Did I pronounce it right?
Yeah.
Yippee skippy. All right. So Kevin is a comedy nerd and former enterprise salesperson. He used to sell SaaS and now sells LAAS, laughter as a service. I love that. He's a stand-up comedian, improviser, business owner, operator, an all-around good guy. Kevin believes applied improv and stand-up can teach someone everything they need to know about thriving as a business professional. He works with companies across all industries, tech, law, medicine, higher education, etc., using humor, play, and laughter as a tool to level up their professional skill sets. That's easy for me to say. Welcome, Kevin, once again. He's going to hate us by the time
This
we're
is
done.
deja vu all over again.
So,
Kevin, what did you
I've
want?
had this conversation before.
I know it's so weird.
Ask
It's like
it. So now you get to ask the first question first.
okay, great. It's good. What did you want to be when you grew up, Kevin?
I wanted to be an NYPD officer. My grandfather was a NYPD officer, and his brothers were as well, and cousins and stuff. So our family had a lot of background in the NYPD, and my mom would tell me about them all the time. But I was asked that question early, and so that was kind of the answer that I had in elementary school.
So you're obviously Irish in part of your background.
Irish except in name only.
Except in name.
Exactly. Yeah. And the name comes from my dad's side. Czechoslovakia is where my dad came from.
And there's a ton of Czechoslovakian policemen. Did you know that?
Yeah. I did this joke last week on this keynote I did, but I said my mom and dad met in the hospital. My dad's a surgeon. My mom's a nurse. And my dad, when he first saw my mom, said to her, "I saw your chart. Looks like you're single." And my mom said to him, "That's cute, but that's a HIPAA violation."
That's awesome.
So
comedy runs in the family.
Yeah, there we go. So that is the kind of our family's background, and yeah, my mom, came my mom's Sullivan, Irish side of our family, and very proud of both heritages there. But
nice.
But yeah, that's what I wanted to be when I was a kid.
So how did that follow up into what you're doing now? Totally different.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's like everyone gets that question when they're young. What do they want to be when they grow up? And they're not exposed to everything else in the world. So I think that answer kind of changes as you grow up and you have new experiences. So that question still, I think at one point I was like, maybe I'll be a professional lacrosse player. And that's not something that I was good enough even to do, let alone if it was something I could really do. And then in college, I want to be a professional hockey player at one point. That was actually really what it was. But again, very hard to do.
And you like your own teeth.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, you have a beautiful smile. Why change
mess it up, right?
Yeah, listen, my parents paid an arm and a leg for orthodontic work, so I wasn't gonna just shatter that.
There you go.
Exactly. And then in college is really where I went to Georgetown University, and I had an opportunity to, a lot of my friends were getting into the finance world, and I started to kind of see other jobs out there. I tried a finance internship. I didn't really like it, and that was the moment where I stopped asking, what do I want to do with my life? And I started to ask, what do I not want to do with my life? And I started to kind of just see things that weren't a fit for me. I didn't want to get into medicine like my family my family's background. I didn't want to do finance. Maybe I didn't want to do other maybe corporate jobs like consulting out there. And then eventually I came across a new fellowship program they had at Georgetown called the Entrepreneurship Fellowship Program. And I was one of the first people in that class for that. And it started to expose me into other people that weren't really sure what they wanted to do, except maybe try something new, start something new, kind of innovate in, any sort of field. And so I think I really liked that idea. And so I majored in marketing, but I sort of minored in entrepreneurship, and it gave me the opportunity to just kind of see that you don't have to go into a specialty, and you can start to learn a lot and fail a lot. And I think I really just aligned well with this mission of, try to focus on whatever you do, just really love what you do. And that was really the base. I mean, I took an entrepreneurship class, and they had us go and write in the top 10 things of your life that are important to you, and laminate it and put it into your card, into your wallet. And I kept that card probably for 20 years until I think I lost my wallet. And the number thing on the 10th thing of it was love what you do. And that was always what I had. Other stuff was around family and keeping in touch with people. So it really was allowed to show like, what are your values and what you care about. And so outside of, how important family and friends were to me, the next thing outside of that was just love what you do and follow that path of what you want to be when you grow up. Just know that you're going to be really interested in it and follow that passion.
So where did comedy fit in to all this?
I'll tell you where comedy fit in. You go to Georgetown University, become a comedian, and expect to pay off student loans.
That's
There's,
right.
There it is.
there's some comedy.
So Georgetown actually has a great pedigree of comedy, and they have Jim Gaffigan and Mike Birbiglia, Nick Kroll, John Mulaney, Jackie Novak, like
Wow,
just
so
absolute killers. And I actually tried out for the improv team my freshman year, and did not get called back. But I had no idea what I was doing, and so they were very right to do so.
That's
but
okay.
I knew I liked.
That
Yeah.
happened to Michael Jordan too. So
That's exactly what I told my mom.
exactly.
So that I took Michael Jordan's path, and I went and I remember a friend of mine's sister was doing stand-up comedy in DC, and she invited me to do an open mic, and I was like, oh my gosh, so excited. I wrote down all my jokes in my first notebook that I have. I still have the notebook, and I was about to leave, and she said her car broke down, so she couldn't take me there. So I was like, oh, what a pump fake.
Yeah.
And so I knew I liked comedy. I was interested in it. It was kind of pulling at me. And then eventually I moved to New York City after college. And my brother, who was heavily in the improv scene, many years earlier, said, hey, I want to get into improv again. And so we're going to start a group. So my two brothers and my best friend, we hired a improv instructor to come over to my brother's apartment. We pushed all the furniture out of the way. We started the group. It was called the Brothers and Flaws. And we would do 3 hours of improv a week.
Wow.
And it was the most fun ever. I loved every minute of it. We'd laugh our butts off every single day, every single week, I mean, and it was just the best. And at the same time, I was working at this company called Splash. I was one of the first 10 employees there, and I had like really no professional skills. So I had no basis for that, but I did have these comedy skills that I was learning. And what I didn't realize was that these comedy skills were actually super valuable in my professional world. And that was the first time that I realized that, I wasn't training to be a professional comedian. I was training to become a better professional.
So let me ask you, in your experience with applied improv and working across the board, I mean, in so many different industries, what are one or two themes across that you find, let me rephrase that. What are some things that they find that are missing? Where are the holes that seem to be the same no matter where you go?
Yeah, I would say the first one is definitely listening, active listening. And every time I say the words, oh, we're going to focus on active listening, you just see the people on the call perk up, and they're like, we need that. Everybody says that. It's like, if we could do that, we could do it more. We could definitely use a lot more active listening. And so active listening comes in the form of not interrupting people, really listening to everything that they have to say. Um, something I was taught in improv that I love is something I tell myself all the time, which is F your good idea. And it's when like you have something that you want to say and you suppress it and you let someone finish, and then you really finish what they have to say before you say it. And a lot of the times your idea might go away, but at least you're giving that person the opportunity to finish, and then you could build off on top of that. And then that goes into the next thing that's most important, and that's communication, effective communication, empathetic communication. And so it's this phrase that everyone hears all the time in improv of yes and. And yes and could just mean, hey, let's be agreeable to one another. But I actually think yes and, using yes and as like, hey, these are the two words that we're going to use when we hear somebody and we're trying to communicate with them. And so I think yes and is great because you should not say words like no, but, or. There's a phrase I always say is no, but, or, leave it at the door. And that allows people to think, okay, if I disagree with this person, or I know that I'm right, I need to validate them first. And so that's what the yes is. It's I've listened to you. Yes. I've validated what you're saying with that yes. And which is saying I'm going to bridge all the stuff that you just said, and I'm going to take it where I want to go. And I'm going to ask you to give me the same respect that I just gave you and listen to what I have to say. And that and in theory could be a but or an or a disagreement that you're saying it. But when you really are conscious of not using no, but, or, and really conscious of using words like yes and to communicate with people, you get that validation, you get that agreeing statements, and you get the opportunity to reframe, how they're looking at things while also being like, and I listen to everything you have to say, and we're on the same page.
So Kevin, you just did a huge keynote for a medical group or a medical. So where are the areas that they're people are applying the skills of improv and taking advantage of them?
Yeah, so the keynote was a lot of fun. It was for 500 plus people. And, when we do improv events, a lot of the times we like to get into smaller groups. But when you're dealing with a larger group, it has to obviously have a lot of energy from me up top of kind of getting people excited, actually to break the ice because it was so boring. Not boring, but it was so tense in the room. I actually brought out a t-shirt gun to get the crowd pumped up. And the t-shirt gun malfunctioned, and so that was a bummer. But still, they went nuts, and that's all I needed. And I started with a song, got people going. But anyways, I felt that it was important for people to see, I'm getting out there, and I'm going to kind of be the first person that takes the step that's going to kind of be vulnerable and show myself. So I think that's a really important leadership quality as well, is kind of showing people like I'm okay with, putting myself out there and taking that first step if I'm going to ask you to do the same.
Sure.
So that's how I first wanted to kick things off. And then the next thing that we did was I started it by having people do games next to each other. So I said, hey, grab your partner. And we did a series of 2-person games to get people warmed up. And you just heard people laughing and, more importantly, making a ton of mistakes. And so I had up on the screen the whole time something that said feedback equals failure. And so every time I'd ask them, what'd you think about that? They'd be like, well, I didn't do it right the first time. And I go, well, I pointed at the screen, feedback equals failure. So much to the point that by the end of the keynote, when I had people come up on stage, they were saying feedback equals failure. And the best part was...
Isn't it the other way around? Failure equals feedback?
Failure equals feedback. I'm sorry.
I'm just saying. I was like, I don't think you want to feature failure like that.
Well,
yeah, my bad. Thank you.
That's
Failure
okay. Kevin gets away with
and
a lot.
and that's the point. Failure equals feedback.
Failure equals feedback.
Look at
and
that.
That's what I'm talking about, Rona. Thank you so much. So
See, and I was listening.
You were.
I win.
Listen up, everybody. Masterclass right
That's right.
here. You're seeing it. And so we did it. My favorite part, though, about the keynote was that it was 500 people. I didn't know anyone who would, if I asked them to come on stage, who would come. So I put 30 letters of A, B, and C, but 30 note cards written with those letters on them. And I put them under random seats. And I said, all right, now look under your seats. And if you have the letter A, come up on stage. And there might as well have been like a live rattlesnake under their seats because they all went crazy. And I had to basically, I made a joke. I go, the emergency exits are there and there because people were just freaked out. But I warmed them up so much that it wasn't performative, and people were so comfortable once they got up on stage because we had done this prepping and this warm. And that was a big thing is like we're making support with one another and we've got each other's backs. And that's a really important thing is like this hyper amount of support. But, obviously we were focusing on listening and communication and being okay with failure. But then obviously by the end of the day, we're bringing people up there. It's like, hey, you can do anything up there, and we have your back.
Psychological safety.
Yeah, psychological safety, exactly.
Excellent.
That's great.
Do you have any other?
So in terms of tips for somebody that want to, first of all, complex question. Sorry, I can get this straight one of these days. So one of the things is when you're doing improv and you're doing it from a comedy standpoint, you're the performer. And that's different than running a workshop. And so when running the workshop, where'd you pick up those skills and how'd you do that? And then tie this into, if somebody wanted to get in the industry or they want to transition from just doing improv on stage and wanted to be valuable and actually help other companies do this stuff. Anyway, so that's a jumble.
Well, the first answer to your question, after the Brothers in Flaws, the band broke up, family, people had to go and start families or move over to other parts of the country. But after that, I started to go into my own personal kind of independent journey of comedy. I know I did improv at some other great theaters in New York City, training wise, and that was fun. But then I said, all right, let me try my hand at stand up. So I started doing a lot of open mics. Eventually I got into some clubs and did some shows there. And then I was actually at a show and I went too long because I just didn't realize that someone had lit me, which means that like you have to end after the light. And I didn't see it, and they pulled the mic sound from my last joke that I was doing. And I was so embarrassed. And I said, you know what, in spite of them, I'm going to start my own show. And I did. And that's actually kind of how I started Laughed Out Events, which is funny.
No pun intended.
Yeah, exactly. It's a really long bit that I've been doing for 6 years. But yeah, I ended up throwing my own comedy show in my office that of the company that I worked in because they had this amazing stage and lighting and sound. And then that gave me the opportunity to be like, I can do as much time as I want. I can get better. And then I realized like, oh, I wasn't actually perfecting my craft enough, and I need to dial in what I'm doing. And I don't want to do 15 minutes. It's a long time. I kind of just want to do like 6.5 if I'm doing it right. Because you should be making people laugh every 8 to 15 seconds, and you should create a rhythm and your own voice. And they say it takes 10 years to get good at stand-up, and that's about like generating your own voice and finding what that is. And so I learned so much in the stand-up world too of like failing a ton. I had to fail so much in every single stage I was on. And I had to just take those licks and just get better. And so that was it. When you're doing improv, you have your other team and everyone's on the group, everyone's with you, and you can fail together and laugh about it together. When you're doing stand-up, it's kind of only you up there, and you bomb. You have to be willing to just say, okay, it's over. Like, what's the worst thing that could happen? Then the worst thing happens, and then you're like, and I'm still alive, and I'm still totally fine. And that's really how it all goes. So that's how I got into the stand-up world, and that's another thing that we teach. And then how do other people get into it? I think one, if you do want to do it and work with us, like we also would love to have more people. We have a big roster. We're in 30 different cities. And so if anyone's ever interested and they have improv background and they like to teach improv to other professionals, love to work with everybody. And I'd say the best way for everyone to get better and get more business in the improv world is starting to talk about improv, not in the sense of theater, because that's a really intimidating place for non-theater people, and starting to think about improv. That's why we call it laughing in development, because I think the word improv is very scary. And so we want to help people know that applied improv is what we're doing. And it's different. Stand-up is different than improv. Improv is different than applied improv.
Right.
And we really need to help people educate the world. And so I believe, rising tides lift all ships. And so the most everyone can talk about it, then, the leads come through because, people feel comfortable being like, oh, I want to try that. I heard about it. So I think that's kind of the best way for everybody to help everyone out.
That's a great.
Excellent.
So share your website, how people can get in touch with you and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So my website is laugh.events. It's like .com, but .events. So laugh.events is the website. If you want to ever do a team building event or a corporate workshop like the ones we're talking about. And then my newsletter is called LaughRx. So laughrx.laugh.events. That's the newsletter. And we talk about, we tie in medical or neuroscience into comedy skills, into how you can use them. Kind of a lot of stuff we talked about here, but, in bite-sized things from a newsletter standpoint. And then on LinkedIn, Kevin Hubschmann is my name, both on LinkedIn and in real life. So we can do
Always
that.
nice. Yes. That's good to know.
And
There's
and
no
then
alias.
We'll go from there.
Fantastic.
All right, wait. You said you're the only one, Hubschmann? Are you the only
Hubschmann,
one?
only one with two N's.
I used to be the only Hansler on there, Jeffrey Hansler, and then there was a guy in New York, and he was a tattoo artist, so people could usually tell the two of us apart.
That's true.
Maybe it was
any relatives?
No, they're not relatives, and now there are like 5 or 6 Jeffrey Hanslers on LinkedIn.
They're okay. There
One's
you
in
go.
Australia.
Well,
Anyway,
Damn you,
There-
LinkedIn.
we digress. I know.
I know. Per usual. Kevin, thank you so much for doing it twice. Just it's so much for improv. We kind of knew what the questions were. Anyway, this has been so great. And hey, I'll work with you. I have an applied improv background. That'll be fun. Anyway,
Let's do it.
that is it for us. I'm Rona Lewis.
I'm Jeffrey Hansler.
And this has been Biz-Souls. Oh, don't forget to subscribe, ding the button, ding the bell, et cetera, et cetera. We could use the numbers so we can get out of single digits, double digits.
Yeah, and that's how
triple digits. I think we're
yeah.
in triple digits now or something.
Yeah, and follow Kevin. Kevin's smart. Kevin found us. Kevin reached out to get on here. He subscribed.
Look at him. He's a computer genius.
Be a Kevin. Be a Kevin.
Be a Kevin. That's right. We all want to be Kevin when we grow up. Anyway. All right. Thanks very much, Kevin. Thank you. And we'll see you next time, everybody.
Glad to have you. Thank you.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Biz-Souls podcast with your hosts, Rona Lewis and Jeffrey Hansler. Did you have fun? Subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It's very much appreciated. Talk to you next week.